welcome to my first podcast, or I don't know whether it's called a Skype cast, but whatever it's called. Welcome to Alex Williams, the animator and cartoonist and former barrister, who has become a good friend, but he's someone whose work I admire enormously. And he not only draws, many of you may well know, the Queen's Counsel cartoons on the Times, but also he's more recently done, I'm delighted to say, the Baby Barrister cartoons on The Guardian and on the Own site and on the front of the new book as well. But as well as doing that, as well as having qualified as a barrister, any look at his CV is ridiculously impressive since he's gone off from little old England and made it big in Hollywood. So I'm going to be asking him a little bit about that as well. And that ranges from back in the day and Who Framed Roger Rabbit right up to, as I understand it, the most recent Harry Potter film. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you for asking me.
No, my pleasure. Just to tell people, I'm actually, we're Skyping, I'm in Braunton in North Devon and Alex is in West London. So what I'd like to do, Alex, is really introduce you to people. And so I'll sort of prompt you with questions as much as anything just to ask you about your background. So first of all, if you tell us a little bit about perhaps education and your time at the bar.
Well, I wasn't at the bar for very long. It was a bit of a fleeting career, but I was educated at Westminster, Oxford, and then went to the bar after that. Although I'd already done some work on film animation before I went to the bar.
Yeah.
So I think going to the bar, I sort of decided that I should really get a proper job. And the bar is a proper job. And so I did all the usual things, the pupillage, tenancy, all of that, and then I hadn't actually been doing it for very long when I got a call from Hollywood, and I went off to work for Warner Brothers in Los Angeles, which sounds very glamorous, but I did get lucky in the sense that in the mid-90s, when I newly qualified at the bar, the animation business really started booming. Largely off the back of The Lion King, which made tons and tons of money. And so, and because I already had animation experience, I got seduced to Hollywood.
So how did people react in your chambers? You've been through all that work, all the sort of the paranoia of pupillage and the fears of not getting taken on.
Yeah, indeed.
And then you packed it in to go and do animation. How did people react? Did they think you were mad, or were they, happy for you? What?
I think they were very happy for me. I mean, I agonized over the decision for a long time. But looking back on it, I realized how actually annoyed they must have been because, as a pupil, you get a lot of investment put in you, not just financially, but, in terms of training and effort. And I don't think I realized at the time how ungrateful I must have been or must have seemed to have accepted all of that work and effort on their part and then buggered off to America.
So you didn't spend your time making coffee and photocopying then, like Baby Barrister?
Well, I was lucky. I had really nice people. I was at a lovely set of chambers. They were really kind. I had really nice people masters, and they made a major effort.
Yeah.
And I think I was rather ungrateful and selfish.
To be fair, and maybe it seems a disclaimer, but that was my experience too. So Baby Barrister, I think, is that classic caricature, but
it's a caricature. But I think a lot of people did have unhappy tendencies. I mean, I had friends who had awful experiences as pupils.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you can sort of tell at the interview. I basically picked the chambers that was nicest at the interview. It's probably a terrible way of selecting your future career.
You're saying nice things about them, so are you able to say where it was?
Yeah, it was 12 King's Bench Walk.
Okay.
Lovely. And very good as well.
So a very good common law set of chambers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And then how did you get into animation? I mean, I know from your background that your dad is pretty big in Hollywood. He's won, is it a couple of Oscars?
He's won 3. Yeah, I mean, Dad actually works in Bristol now.
Yeah.
And he's sort of, actually I was about to say semi-retired, but he would dispute that, and quite rightly too. What he is now, he's an independent filmmaker, and he actually works a lot at Ardman in Bristol.
Yeah. So this is just for other people. This is Richard Williams, he was the director of Roger Rabbit. Is that right?
He was animation director.
Right. Yeah.
Live action was directed by Bob Zemeckis.
Yeah.
And it was produced by Spielberg.
Okay.
But Yes, I mean, that was Dad was the animation director, and he was very much a well, he was one of the key people who made that movie
Yeah.
what it was.
So was that your kind of intro into the movie business?
Yes, and I worked on that film.
Mm.
But I guess I had dinner with Dad the other night, and he brought a fistful of drawings that I'd done when I was like 4
Yeah.
or something. So, and they're all you can see I'm doing dinosaurs age 4 like all little boys do.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to animate them. You can see you can see my
Fantastic.
attempts to make the animators make the dinosaurs run. So there's sort of 2 drawings.
Do you think that was some genetic thing, or was that because your dad was training you age 4 to be an animator?
Early training. No, I think it always seemed like a really cool thing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I always wanted to do it. And it is a cool job. Very different now. I mean, now it's totally we're all technologied up. It's all done in 3D software.
Yeah, so
Whereas then it really was still pencil and
I was going to
paper.
say, when you started out, were you actually drawing each little sketch?
Yeah, you had to draw everything was done by hand.
Yeah.
And in a way, everything is still done by hand. It's still handcrafted. You're just using a computer to handcraft it, if you see what I mean. And the computer gives you nothing for free.
Yeah.
People think, oh, the computer does it. But the analogy I always use is I always say the computer does the animation for you in exactly the same way that Microsoft Word writes your letters for you.
Yeah, yeah.
It is just a tool.
So take us from Roger Rabbit, and you mentioned, well, you went on, as I understand it, to The Lion King, and after pupillage, after tenancy, you zoomed off to Hollywood to make it big. Where did you go from there?
Well, I was in Hollywood for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Working on various pictures for Disney, DreamWorks, Sony ImageWorks, and various other studios. But I wouldn't exactly say I made it big. I mean, I think many of my colleagues would dispute that.
But in normal people's terms, you were what, an animation director for Disney?
I have done that. I have been animation director on several projects. Yes. So I suppose I've certainly had a good career. It's definitely been good, and hopefully will continue to be.
And
But I mean, I'm mostly working in London now. And the big difference, of course, in London with the animation business, when I left London in 1996, you really couldn't work at a high level in animation in London, and now you can, because the visual effects industry has grown so much in England or in London in the last decade or so. It is a completely different landscape. And if we have one person to thank for that, it's J.K. Rowling, who really should have a peerage, at least.
Well, tell us about Harry Potter.
Services to the British film industry.
Tell us about Harry Potter and your work on it.
I mean, if you go and watch the credits of the Harry Potter film, you're going to be there for a while. I went. I think last time I tried to sit through the credits to wait for my name to come up, but they were literally sweeping the popcorn from under my feet.
Last time being, of course, last night and the night before and the night before that.
No, I did some work on the last 2, but mainly design work on that, and then the one before that, which I think is Goblet of Fire. Or is it Half-Blood Prince? I always get them mixed up. There's like Bond movies. I always get them titles.
But come on, as I understand it, you designed or redesigned the Patronus. Is that right? Harry's Patronus.
The Harry Potter Patronus, dear. Yeah, I did a redesign of that one on the last.
Yeah, so about 1 billion kids have been watching that, and adults, including.
Yeah, they're great films. They're great films, and they require an amazing effort. I mean, there are a lot of people who put a lot of work into those things, and they're amazing to watch because they've been getting so much better. I mean, you look at the last one and compare it with the first.
Yeah.
The level of skill and refinement is, and not just in the visual effects, but across everything, is so much improved. They are amazing, amazing pictures.
Yeah. Now, another one that sprung out at me when I was looking through your list of films just before we started this was Marmaduke, who I haven't seen the whole film, but I've seen a clip where Marmaduke is a surfing dog. And being the owner of a surfing dog myself, did you do any of the surfing clips, or what did you do on that film?
Sorry to say I didn't do the surfing clips. We did a lot of the visual effects work at Cinesite in London, but I'm afraid the surfing shots were done by Rhythm and Hughes in Los Angeles. So I'm sorry about that.
So let's
claim no credit for the surfing.
Let's move on. I wasn't thinking that. Let's move back to the Queen's Counsel cartoons. How did they start about, and who did you work with when you first got it going?
Queen's Counsel was well. That was, I mean, that began in 1993.
Yeah.
And I was a law student then.
Yeah.
And I had put together a cartoon strip about politicians, which I think I sent into Private Eye, and I got a very nice letter from Ian Hislop saying no, but keep trying.
Yeah.
And so I was at law school with my friend Graham DeFries, and we basically came up with Queen's Counsel.
Yeah.
And sent it into the Time, and we got lucky because it was the mid '90s or the early '90s. There was this sort of whole phase of lawyer jokes. I mean, most of which were hate jokes and not really funny. Those jokes. They're sort of what do you call 1,000 lawyers in a bus going off the edge of a cliff? And the answer is a good start.
Oh, there you go.
They're silly. I mean, they're not particularly funny, but there was a whole kind of vogue for them.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, and it coincided with the O.J. Simpson trial as well in America, when lawyers were sort of public enemy number one, and so it was a good moment. And so I got lucky. We got lots of offers, but the Times was sort of seemed like the nicest people to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. You're still doing them now, so that's what 18 years
and
on.
They're great because it's been published continually for almost 20 years now. So
yeah. Now, just as a plug, I've got a whole heap of books here but I think this is the Lawyers Uncovered is the one that...
yes, I'm glad you showed me that, because I've got a copy right here.
That's even better. Queen's Counsel 2. So I actually, even just having them here, I'm losing count as to how many books you've done, never mind cartoons. I mean, you've got the summaries of them, and then there's a summary of a summary. But I can't. I suppose if you're doing one every couple of weeks or one a week.
It's one a week.
So
it isn't in the newspaper every week, but it is online every week.
Yeah. So that's a lot of cartoons you've done about lawyers.
Yes.
Over the years.
Absolutely.
How you then moved on to 101 Ways to Leave the Law, another book that was from last year. That's a naked plug, but it's a great book. And you did the 101 Uses for a Useless Banker. How did those two books come about?
Well, Leaving the Law was based on actually my wife Sarah is a solicitor, and I think not most, but an awful lot of lawyers I think do fantasize about leaving the profession.
Yeah.
But look, it's not unique to lawyers.
I mean, I
know the world fantasizes about leaving their job.
I noticed that you were keen to point out in the front of the 101 Ways to Leave the Law for Sarah, who really honestly doesn't want to leave the law.
Yes, of course she doesn't.
And then you asked me to do the foreword, who'd at least taken a break from the law.
You had, and both of us, of course, did the law. Well, lots of people leave the law. I mean, it's. I think a lot of people go into law because they think it's going to be a great training.
Yeah.
For something, and of course, as you quite rightly point out, what law is a great training for is law.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to practice law, you really shouldn't be going to law school, because you should actually spend your time and money and effort doing something else.
Well, but what I think that the 101 Ways to Leave the Law is actually not about people who have left the law. It's about daydreams of real lawyers, isn't it?
It's about it's a daydream. Yes, it's a fantasia on a theme of blowing up your career.
Yeah.
How to blow up your career in spectacular style.
Yeah. And then finally, we have the Baby Barrister cartoons. I mean, just by way of introduction on that, I mean, I got in touch with you having looked at one of your books on Queen's Counsel and just said they're fantastic, and I just wanted to compliment them, really. And I think you were saying, oh, I've been avoiding reading Baby Barrister for not wanting their ideas, and I was like, well, brilliant. If you want to even look at them, let's look away, and we started working together. And
yes, and you're right. I didn't want to read your blog because I knew that if I read it, I'd be in terrible danger of stealing your ideas and using.
But it's great. What's happened is that they've interacted, and I think I've certainly enjoyed the fact that sometimes I know what a character's like, I know what they'd say, but I often didn't actually know what they looked like. I do now, but I didn't know what they looked like until you'd drawn them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how did you translate what I was writing to? Did you just suddenly have generic figures, or was it such that the pictures that you drew did produce these specific characters in your head?
Well, I think it's a mix, isn't it? I mean, I think the when you're doing a caricature, you're trying to capture a certain look of a character
Yeah.
in the caricature. But I think I usually try and send you a few alternates,
Yeah.
so that you get the sense that so you have something to choose from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was nice. If I send you 10 scribbles and you pick the one or ones that seems closest to the character, and then I can develop those. So.
But do you find they become slightly, once they've taken form between the two of
Yeah.
us, and the interaction is as much as anything through chatting it through and me giving you examples of what they
Yeah.
do, and then
Yeah.
you giving me physical examples in your cartoons, and suddenly me realizing, oh, that's true. Busybody,
Yeah.
for example, I hadn't realized had curly hair. But as soon as I saw it, and it's not sounding ridiculous, but as soon as I saw it, I realized, of course, she's got curly hair, and when she gets really busy, her hair goes frizzier. Or Head Clark. He has a kind of really
Yeah.
neat Richard Branson beard, doesn't he? And I hadn't
Yes.
seen that, but he is the entrepreneur, and it's interesting. But yeah, once you've nailed them down like that, and to be fair, a lot of them we were going with your first choices. Do they become alive in your head when you're drawing other cartoons with them?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And what I'd love to do is do some more work. Put them in specific settings, and
Yeah,
it'd be fun to do more illustrations with them, flesh them out more.
yeah,
So I think actually illustrate. If you look, I mean, the Dickens books were all illustrated.
yeah. By
It's
Boz.
only relatively recent nowadays that publishers think, "Oh no, illustrations in books, it must be for kids." I think
Well,
that's a
this an adult book with your illustrations all over them. So
excellent.
I was really delighted because we didn't get them on the book one, but there they are on book two, and they look fabulous. And we've even got the characters at the start of each chapter. So
Yeah,
uh,
they look very handsome.
very chuffed about that indeed. So yeah, your inspiration for the Queen's Counsel cartoons now, I assume, doesn't in any way come from Sarah and her.
Well, at least I mean, it's true that if you're going to keep current with law, you need someone who's actually at the coalface. So that definitely helps. But yes, I mean, well, I mean, obviously she comes home every day and talks about her work, so
No,
it's inevitable.
that,
Some of what she
that's
does
not
ends
to
up
put
in
you on the
script.
spot to suggest that she's doing the bad ideas, but you're hearing
It's fine.
what's going on. But also, do you find I find now with Baby Barrister that I'm not practicing that sometimes you're just channeling thoughts or ideas from just general life through the legal characters.
Yes,
So
yes.
you
Although
might
the
you might have
script does have. I think that I mean years ago, I remember when I started the strip, it was made very clear that the strip must have a legal content.
yeah,
That is its USP. That
yeah.
it's about lawyers and it's in that legal world, and so I do always try and make sure that it's within that universe.
Yeah. Okay. Now you've got a new project and a new book about to come out.
Yes,
Uh,
more
tell
books.
tell us about that.
That's the Queen's Counsel official lawyer's handbook,
Yeah.
and it's a collaboration with me and Dan White,
Yeah.
who wrote actually the original official lawyer's handbook, which was published in the 80s, so ages ago. So
Now,
this is an update
and that was
of
a
an
huge
existing
book,
book.
wasn't it? That was like internationally
It was
best-selling.
huge. I mean,
Yeah.
it was top of the Times bestseller list in the US
Yeah.
and sold tens of thousands of copies in the UK and
Yeah.
around the speaker. So and it's a wonderful book and should not be out of print. So that was very much a question of how can we bring this book back to life, and it began when I started writing something similar
Yeah.
as a Queen's Counsel sort of lawyer's handbook.
Yeah.
I never did come up with a title. But I realised that I was basically rewriting Dan's book, and at that point, I thought this is silly. I should just get in
Yeah.
touch with Dan. And
Yeah.
we should do it because it shouldn't be out of print. It should be. It's a fantastic book, and it's a surprisingly accurate. I mean, it's satire,
Yeah.
but it's the most incisive account you can find of actually what it's like to be
Yeah.
an associate.
I mean,
of law.
I mean, as I understand it, it is this mixture of describing how the law is in a kind of funny way, like you say,
Yeah.
satirically, but at the same time, there might be a lot of it's not overly satirical. There's actually a lot of stuff in there that you might go, this is definitely written by people who know about the law.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the stuff. I mean, I've written a chapter on the bar.
Yeah.
Because the original book is basically about lawyering, which is to say, in the UK, solicitoring.
Yeah.
But especially the stuff about being an associate solicitor and that striving for partnership and what happens if you don't make it.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is very apropos. Anyway, I mean, so it's really aimed at anyone going into the law.
Yeah. And it's a light-hearted intro to people either going into it or perhaps new to it.
Yeah, well, it's a manual, and I mean, I feel I can praise it without singing my own praises, because we are really just adapting. And that, but it was written in the 80s, so it was very, very out of date. I mean, it was a world before Blackberries.
Yeah.
And BlackBerry, and everything you read in the 80s is much worse now, because now you're, the associate goes home on Friday, but you're still on your BlackBerry, you're still, or your iPhone or whatever, you're never out of the clutches of the firm.
Well, that's I think that, like, you've got a BlackBerry Pi in one of your cartoons and stuff like that. What do you find are the kind of the new sort of great rich veins for mining humour at the moment? When you're sitting down to do your Queen's Counsel cartoons or any of the other things, what are you finding are the kind of modern issues that keep cropping up that amuse you, or are there issues that almost not you're making a political point, but just the idiosyncrasies that make you smile of modern life?
I think the law. I think that the law is. It is basically the law is a pyramid scheme. You've got the partnership at the top, sort of sitting on this. And the senior associates below them, and then the associates below them, and the trainees, and there's this sort of geyser of money to the top, and all firms try and cultivate, this sort of family image that we're all one big happy family, but really is a kind of war of interest with the partners at the top and the associates below. Yeah. And in a sense, all companies are like that, aren't they? We've all had we're one big happy family speech. Wherever you work, you always get that. And then there's P45s on Friday afternoon. I mean, it's always, capitalism is brutal, and most companies try and sort of pretend that it isn't.
So it's those. So I think it's those old-fashioned tensions still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you go into it understanding what you're getting into.
Yeah. So and I suppose the same old themes of the sort of the self-interested lawyers, the ambition, that these are things that spring out to me from your Queen's Counsel things, the overwork, and then perhaps the idiosyncrasies of perhaps the pompous ones or the nervous ones.
Yes. Although a friend of mine recently complained that I'd killed off. He felt that I'd single-handedly killed off the crusty old bard and been replaced by all these management consultants and PC merchants. The old sort of port-drinking, wig-wearing, three-piece suit-wearing, watch-chain brigade had all gone now, and he was essentially holding me personally responsible.
You mean you'd caricatured them so viciously that no one...
Caricatured them to death.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit harsh.
I think perhaps red wine in dailies probably had a lot to do with it as well, in terms of killing them off. But so, are there any other things that you've got on the horizon at the moment in terms of projects, either legal or animation-wise?
Lots and lots, but I've always got too many projects and too little time to do them. But the book is still a project. In fact, this afternoon I have to come up with a cover design by Sunday evening. So that's still very much a project.
Yeah.
So we're not done, and it hasn't yet gone. We're still, in fact, I haven't seen any proofs yet. So it's coming out this October.
Yeah.
In fact, book launch on October 18th. You must come.
And excellent. And on Amazon, it'll be available on Amazon, I assume.
Yes.
The official lawyer's handbook.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I think it's the title at the moment is the Queen's Counsel Official Lawyer's Handbook. I don't feel that's nearly long enough, so I need to make it longer.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Alex, thank you very much for doing our first Skype podcast, whatever we call it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck with redesigning or designing the cover of your new book. Look forward to seeing it. And maybe we'll have you on another Skype cast as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Bye.
Thanks, Jim.